the habits that I will be sharing not only changed my life, but the relationship that I had with myself. And let me tell you, these habits played a huge role when it came to me achieving one of my biggest life goals, and that was becoming an Olympian and be able to play and compete besides my teammates at the 2016 Olympics. And with that, hi, I'm Rachel Adams. If you're new here, hello. If you've been here, hello. I'm an Olympian and I'm a mindset and confidence mentor to female athletes. I'm living here in Japan as my husband plays basketball here. And this video is going to be very different than my normal content on my channel where I take you around Japan, bring you on different adventures. But mindset is something I'm very passionate about, and I've learned so much on my journey. I want to share these things with you just in case something that I share is something that you can too take with you on your journey. It can help you navigate it all, inspire you, and encourage you along the way. So let's get started, shall we? Habit number 1 is being in my own corner. Being in your own corner comes from the metaphor when speaking about two boxers that are in a fighting ring and they have that break in between rounds. And they go to their separate corners of the ring and they sit down on a chair and they have their little support team around them. And you can see that their support team is in their corner, patching up the cuts that they have from the hits. They're wiping up the blood, rubbing their shoulders like, you got this. They're telling them encouraging words, supporting advice, and they're just being in that boxer's corner, supporting them in the best way possible. That's what I want you to do for yourself along this journey. I wrote down a list of things of how I am in my corner, accepting all parts of myself, the quirks, the weaknesses, everything. Having self-compassion, acknowledging and celebrating my progress, checking in with myself, being proud of myself, encouraging myself, validating myself and my needs, not counting myself out, offering myself support, honoring my body and its needs, taking care of myself, acknowledging my effort, making sure I'm speaking positively to myself, and being my first source of validation. I know this can sound like a long list, but it takes practice, and it's just about diving into one of these things at a time and intentionally showing up for yourself. Looking at the list and being like, how can I show up for myself in this moment? What can I celebrate myself for in this moment? Celebrate your little victories. Sometimes we get so caught up in just achieving and, you know, the things that we did wrong. What have you done right? Celebrate yourself. Be proud of yourself. Have awareness around self-talk that is going on. Is it positive or is it negative? One way to look at it is, how would you speak to a friend or a teammate in this situation? Because sometimes we can be our biggest bully. Beat ourselves up, be our toughest inner critic, be tough on ourselves. So when you are doing that, ask yourself, would I say this to a friend, a teammate, or a loved one? Is it when you look in the mirror, when you wake up first thing in the morning and you're kind of talking bad about your body? Be aware of these unhelpful moments. Or is it after you make a mistake and you're just beating yourself up? How can you have more compassion for yourself? And ultimately, why am I doing this? Why do I want to show up for myself? And why do I want you to show up for yourself? The journey can get tough. It can be long. Our relationship with ourselves is the most important one that we have, because we are going to be with ourselves for 24 hours for the rest of our life. And the year before the 2006 Olympics, I realized I was my own biggest bully. I was the last person to acknowledge my progress, the first one to point out a mistake. I tore myself down after a mistake, after I was messing up, when I was having difficult moments. And this all carried over to how I showed up, how I carried myself on the court. How am I supposed to feel confident when I'm the first one to tear myself down and never acknowledge the good things that I'm doing? And so once I realized I was being my biggest bully, I've learned how to be my biggest supporter and in my corner. So instead of, oh, I sucked at that, like, why can't I do that? I changed it with, okay, I'm not good at it yet. I'm still going to figure out what I can do today to get better at this skill or this task so I can do 1% better of improvement tomorrow. So going back to the visuals of the boxers in the separate corner, and you see the boxer sitting in the chair and he has his support staff in his ear, wiping his face, saying encouraging things. Ask yourself, how can you do the same for yourself? Be that person for yourself. Habit number 2, checking in with myself and my needs. We're gonna start with a quote. When you hold space for yourself, you create a place for you to check in, to see where you're at, realign yourself with the things that truly serve you. That is so good. And let me emphasize, realign yourself with things that truly serve you. But you can't do that if you don't check in on yourself. So let me begin. Checking in with myself looks like a daily check-in. Checking in with myself, my needs, and how I'm feeling. And what does this look like for me, you ask? Starting off each morning with a simple check-in. It's 5 minutes, and it's before I check my phone, it's before I check in with anyone else, and it's a check-in with myself. It's a great way for you to start learning about yourself and being honest with what you want and how you feel, what you need and how you're doing. So how do you do a daily check-in? Like I said, I set aside 5 minutes to myself in the morning. I grab a pen, I grab a piece of paper, and I literally write down, how am I feeling? I check in, I listen to my body. Is it achy, heavy? Am I sad, excited, feeling anxious? I write it down. Next question, what do I need today? Based on how I'm feeling, that's where my needs usually come from. And it could be, I need some water, to make sure I make time for a walk today, to make sure I'm hanging out with friends, or that I need alone time. So based on how I'm feeling, I make room for what my needs are. And the best part within this, there's no rules, there's no pressure. It's just getting honest with yourself and what you need and how you feel in this moment. A special time for you and yourself. You just have to listen to yourself. Observe, get curious, have an honest check-in. Why have I implemented this daily habit of checking in with myself on this journey? I started checking in with myself. I was able to show up stronger on my journey, more intentional. I had a fuller cup. I felt more connected to myself. I felt like I could stand taller. Like I could show up for my teammates, my loved ones, and those around me. It all connects. Because like they say, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And as much as we want to roll our eyes about it, it is true. So checking in with myself is me picking up the glass, seeing if it's empty, and deciding what I'm going to do about it to fill it up. The thing is, so many of us get caught up in the hustle and the bustle of everyday life that sitting down for a 5-minute check-in can seem like a lot. So that's saying 5 minutes is way too much for me to check in on myself and my needs and how I can take care of myself today. So the question is, what can you do to implement this habit on your journey? Schedule 5 minutes in your day for you to check in with yourself. Grab a journal, grab a pen, or if it feels comfortable, try on the computer, try on your phone's notepad. Like I said, figure out what worked for you. And start out with the 2 simple questions. How am I feeling? What do I need? And honestly, you can check in at any time. You can check in the morning, midday, at the end of the day. But obviously what has worked for me is checking in the morning and checking in with myself before I ever look at my phone to check in on how other people on social media are doing. So try a few things out and see what works for you. Ooh, all this talking is no joke, guys. Habit number 3, monthly and weekly meetings with myself. And the quote I want to share with you is, mindlessly moving through life has consequences. You will rarely, if ever, achieve the life that you want. Your brain will unconsciously wire for more negativity, stress, and fear because you are not being mindful of your inputs. Your health, goals, and happiness will take a backseat because you are too busy being distracted. Mindfully moving through life will guarantee better outcomes because you are being intentional. You have set goals, you are determined, you have a plan. Every action or inaction has a consequence. Some positive, some negative. Be more mindful this week so you can determine your outcome. Don't just sit back and let life happen to you. All right, so what are monthly and weekly meetings with myself, you ask? Think of it as a business meeting I have with myself at the end of each week and at the end of each month. Evaluating the journey, asking myself the tough questions, what's working, what's not working, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be let go, who needs to be fired. It's basically seeing if the company, aka myself, my journey, my goals, are running the right way. That things are on the right path, that I'm doing the right tasks, and seeing if any adjustments need to be made along the way. How have I been running weekly and monthly meetings with myself? It's all about sitting down with my notebook and asking the tough questions. And I'll share with you the long list, but I'm gonna pick some things from the list that I have during the meeting with myself. What is working? What's not working? What adjustments can I make going forward? What can I do less of? What can I do more of? What is giving me energy recently? What is draining my energy? So these type of questions, you can intermix them with the weekly reflections and the monthly reflections. Just add, you know, monthly at the end, or week, or the end of the week at the end. And the why behind this is just like the quote said, if you're not mindfully and intentionally moving throughout the month and the week, you're just going to be mindlessly doing things, mindlessly going about things, continuously doing things that drain your energy, that bring about the same result that you don't want, that aren't working. So when you think about it, a business, they have meetings, they ask the questions like, what is working with this company, what's not, who's working, who's not. They just don't mindlessly go about the month, the week, just doing things that aren't working. Okay, some companies do, but the good and the great companies continuously evaluate, continuously adjust, continuously make changes and adapt. But if you don't do the reflections, you're never going to find those things that need to be adjusted, adapted, and the changes that need to be made. Doing this has allowed me to be more intentional and make better strides towards my goals. I do not believe that I would have been ready and prepared for the 2016 Olympics and been able to show up how I wanted to if I didn't make certain adjustments, if I didn't do evaluations, if I didn't make adjustments on, okay, I did not like how I showed up on practice this week, how can I change that? Or I do not like the energy I'm bringing this month, or the results that have come from showing up like this or doing the same action, if I didn't review it. Again, the why is to take inventory, get intentional and aware, and make changes in habits and environment, and make the execution process faster. And with this, I'm able to come from a place of increased awareness. So what can you do? How can you start having meetings with yourself? So one thing that worked for me was grabbing a paper, a pen, and going through each question one by one and thinking about and intentionally reflecting. And the thing I believe wholeheartedly is find what works for you. I cannot say that enough. So try it out on the computer, in a journal, on your phone. Just explore the avenues that can work for you, because the journal is not going to work for everyone. Take the questions that I share with you on the screen and answer them one by one. Pick a time during the week. So for me, I love checking with myself on a Friday and then making time for myself at the end of each month. So create a space, go to a coffee shop, find a spot in your home that's quiet, and make this time about you. Have that business meeting, ask the hard questions, give the honest reflection, and be real with yourself and give yourself that feedback so you can make adjustments, reroute, make decisions, let go of things, add things. This is about you and your journey and being intentional about what you are doing and how you are moving. Because I promise you, if you're moving mindlessly about your journey, you're just going to keep doing the same thing that's not working, showing up in the same way that's not working, keeping the same things around you that are not working. Reevaluate, review, make adjustments. Have that meeting with yourself. Habit number 4 is taking my mornings seriously. This is our final habit, but one of the most important ones that I have with me on this journey. And the quote that I want to add to this is, morning is an important time of the day because how you spend your morning can often tell you what kind of day you will have. Mornings, I love them so much, but it wasn't me when I was a teenager. You will not find a teenager that says, oh, I love the mornings. I mean, maybe you will. So this is where I share with you what it looks like to take your morning seriously. Like, I'm gonna tell you what it does not look like, and that is setting your alarm 10 minutes before you have to be out the door. Grabbing things, forgetting things. I'm running late, I'm frantic. Is that you? So what it looks like for me and how I do it, it is setting my alarm 1 hour before I have to be out the door. Moving slow throughout the morning, taking my time, implementing things throughout my morning that set me up for success that day. And 10 minutes before I have to walk out the door is not it. So I have 4 foundational pieces when it comes to my morning. I don't make it rigorous. I don't make it stressful. I don't make it as something, if I don't get right, my morning's gonna be over. But giving myself time before I leave is a non-negotiable, and that is something that I will do. But the other things can be moved around. Some things might not be able to be accomplished that morning, but they are my foundational pieces and they can be switched and swapped. But this is my ideal order. Hydration. First thing in the morning, I drink a glass of water. I hydrate myself. I meditate. I spend 10 minutes each morning sitting on the couch and doing the headspace meditation. Allows me to get mindful. After I meditate, I check in with myself. Ask those 2 questions that I mentioned early in the video. How do I feel? What do I need? And from that, I move. move. It can be stretching, it can be yoga, but based on what I got in my check-in on how I feel, what do I need, I decide how I want to move my body. But those all fall under the things that I do in the morning to set myself up for success for the day. So I take my morning very seriously. And that brings me into my why. Why do I take my morning so seriously? Because over time, I learned more about myself. I thought I was the athlete and the person that could wake up 10 minutes before I had to be out the door, but it always set me up for failure. One time I brought 2 right shoes. I didn't have my water bottle. I wasn't in tune with how I was feeling. I wasn't aware of my needs, and all this chaotic and unintentional energy showed up on the court, in the workspace, and in relationships around myself, and I did not like how I was showing up. And I've seen a lot of mothers with kids share that they now wake up at 5 a.m., maybe even 4 a.m. to have that time to themselves. Because when they do that, when they make that time for themselves in the morning and take their morning seriously, they can better show up for those around them. They can better take care of their needs, and they can enter the day with a full cup. I'm not a mom yet, but I know that I will be implementing that in my future morning routine. So if I have to wake up at 3 a.m. to get that alone time, 4 a.m., I will be doing it. So what can you do? It's all about starting small. Sometimes you can look at these morning routine things and talks about mornings and habits, but it's all about starting small so you can begin to create that self-trust. Because when you start making goals and intentions for yourself that are like, okay, every day I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this and do this and all these things, you're setting yourself up for failure, damaging that self-trust that you're trying to build with yourself, and that confidence within yourself to be able to implement things, make changes. So it's all about starting small. So in what way can you start small? Something small that you can achieve. My recommendation, start with your alarm. Set your alarm 30 minutes before your usual alarm. I know you're gonna wake up, your eyes are like, ugh, I wanna go back to sleep, but do not go back to sleep. Give yourself that extra time. And something else that worked for me is to set 2 alarms. One to wake up, the second one is to get out of bed, and 10 minutes in between, because I was never a set an alarm, jump out of bed type of person. Another thing I learned about myself. So find what works for you to get yourself 30 minutes extra in your morning, and then you can slowly build off of that. So little by little, step by step, build a morning that works for you. It's all about exploration and finding out what works for you. Please share in the comments if you have something that works for you on this journey, a habit that you've implemented that allows you to grow that deeper connection with yourself and be more aware and just move more confidently on your journey. Or share something that you think that you're gonna implement from what I shared today. I'm gonna continue to share things that help me, inspire me, encourage me, things that I've learned in hopes that it will inspire and encourage on your journey. So stay tuned for more. Make sure you subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, bye! Mindlessly moving through life has consequences. Okay. Habit number 3, monthly and weekly